Lil Boosie got a lot of victims. He murdered a lot of people. He had a tattoo on his chest that says, Boosie, who next?
He's a real gangster.
Is he really?
Like, he's a real gangster.
Wow.
And that's the thing that people don't realize about Boosie. Like, Boosie got like 30 to 40 around him all the time. And if you touch Boosie, something's gonna happen to you. Something's gonna happen to you.
If, as your friend, if you do something in the streets, he'll let the streets kill you to maintain the street rule. That's why a lot of his friends is dead and the dark cloud sits over his head. See, when you so down with the streets, homie, you'll have one of your partners kill, like Boosie was doing, upholding them street rules. Any man that constantly hides his eyes is not to be trusted. That's the window to the soul. Man, you look a person in his eyes, man, when you hiding your eyes, you hiding something. And Boosie hide his eyes a lot. He will not let you look into his eyes. He done crossed a lot of friends upholding these street rules.
Since the dawn of time, humans have been duped by charisma. Whether it's by horrible dictators, cold-blooded politicians, dangerous kingpins, or even entertainers who live a double life. All of these people have one thing in common. They entertain you, they make you laugh, they make you smile, and they make you overlook the awful things they've done. In this case, we cover an entertainment genius, the ultimate hustler, and most importantly, a hip-hop legend. But what if I told you there's another side to this man? Possibly an evil control freak who eliminates anyone who challenges him. A man who comes equipped with goons who will throw away their freedom for him at any moment. And finally, a man who will turn his own friends and brothers into enemies simply because they want to leave his nest. Or maybe he's just a man who had to do what was necessary to make it out of his circumstances. In this video, I won't tell you what to believe. Instead, I'm just here to lay out all of the facts. This is the crazy story of Lil Boosie, so let's dive right in. South Baton Rouge, Louisiana, a place you've never been and a place you should probably never go. The area has always been poor, run down, and no stranger to violence, despite being just a couple blocks away from a major university. It's the kind of place that's extremely difficult to make it out of, and because of this, it creates some very dangerous people. In fact, the average guy you'll see here is 10 times more intimidating than even the scariest person in most states. In a lot of places, there's structure and codes to the streets, but here, none of that is respected. In Baton Rouge, it's pretty much every man for himself, and things can go up for literally any reason. Jealousy and envy are the main reasons, and to make it worse, everyone is packing heat. No, I kid you not, everyone in Baton Rouge is carrying 30s. Plumbers, college graduates, professors, I kid you not, it's literally everyone. And this is what makes the environment so much crazier. In other cities, people squabble to solve issues, but sadly here, this could never happen. That's why Baton Rouge is one of America's top 5 most dangerous cities. Well, this story begins in the heart of the madness, particularly the West Roosevelt projects. This is where Torrence Ivy Hatch Jr. was born on November 14, 1982. Growing up in the projects was rough as he was exposed to violence, substance abuse, and other vices that no young mind should ever see. At home, Torrence was raised by a single mother who was a middle school principal and well-respected woman in the community. But because teachers are severely underpaid, finances were very slim for the family. On top of this, his father was a street hustler who was in and out of the system. Regardless of these hardships, Torrence had high expectations from his mother, specifically to follow in his brother's footsteps. This would be his older brother Takari, who was a well-mannered kid and a future college graduate. Takari was your typical mama's boy, the one who did everything right. Now on the other hand, Torrence was the complete opposite. Since a young age, he was known for acting out, fighting, and constantly having issues with authority figures.
As teens, we made different choices. Boosie went to Kenilworth for basketball because that's where he excelled in basketball. And that was just like the school they fighting and all that shit, you know what I'm saying? And the fights turned into shootings. So I think that's how Boosie ended up going that way, man.
While he was starting to head down the wrong path, sadly, tragedy would strike. In 1997, Torrence Hatch Sr. lost his life to a battle with cancer. This is when Torrence Jr.'s world collapsed. His father was his superhero and the one he wanted to see as much as he could. So now that his father was gone, Torrence no longer saw a reason to continue playing ball or even attending school. Instead, he entered his new persona, the one called Lil Boosie. From the age of 14, Boosie became a hustler in the streets of South Baton Rouge, an area where stepping on someone's toes can get you whacked. He started with nothing and ran it up with his two closest friends. First would be his best friend named Daryl Milton, also known as Bleak. Bleak actually grew up in the same projects as Boosie, and that's how they met. Since the sandbox, they were always together and were known to always stick up for each other. And second would be another close friend named Ivy Smith, also known as Lil Ivy. Ivy grew up about 5 minutes north of Highland Road in the top of South Baton Rouge, and according to locals, he was the pretty boy who was known to have all the ladies. Bleak was the muscle, Boosie was the leader, and Ivy was the popular one. In the process, they picked up a friend who ended up being the wildest one. This would be a handsome young man by the name of Nicholas Sterling, also known as Lil Finn. Lil Finn fooled everyone with his good looks, but was always the first one to blow. Well, long story short, they were the guys in South Baton Rouge. So while Takari was attending Southern University, Boosie was in the streets risking his life.
You know what I'm saying? My mom ain't teach me to be no gangster. The streets did this, you know what I'm saying?
But at the age of 16, Boosie discovered his true passion. Yes, he loved getting fast money, but he loved telling the stories even more. Boosie began recording songs at a local studio, and this quickly became his newest hustle. Right off the bat, Boosie had a small amount of success, which caught the attention of a local label. This would be Trill ENT, a label located just 10 minutes away in the Uptown neighborhood. Trill was owned by two Uptown legends, Marcus Roach, also known as Turk, and Melvin Vernell, also known as Mel. Turk and Mel saw potential in Boosie to break out of the region, so they decided to sign him as a solo artist. Right off the bat, Boosie's music caught fire. At this point, he had enough money to leave Baton Rouge forever. However, he remained in the trenches with flashy cars, wads of cash, and any girl he wanted. In his mind, why would he leave the place where he's the biggest superstar? He knew that eventually someone would try him, but there's one reason why he wasn't scared. Boosie was rolling with some dangerous South Baton Rouge steppers. For a while, it was Boosie as the star and his three friends by his side. Obviously, this got them a lot of girls, but Ivy actually wanted something more. Simply being Boosie's friend didn't cut it. Instead, he wanted his own career. In 2004, Ivy began putting out mixtapes and they actually caught fire in the streets. This prompted Trill ENT to inquire about signing him. Now, you'd expect Boosie to be happy and to make that easy connection for his friend. You'd even expect him to bargain for more money from the label. However, this wasn't the case, or at least that's the rumor in Baton Rouge. The rumor goes that Boosie didn't want to see Ivy reach his level and that he wanted to be the only one in his crew with money and fame. And according to Ivy's nephew, when Trill ENT was calling Boosie about Ivy, he wouldn't pick up the phone.
Yeah, Trill wanted to sign Ivy, yeah, that's what it was. Amy wanted to sign Ivy and Boosie ain't won't answer the phone. You know what I'm saying? And Bleak got tired of telling Ivy Boosie don't want to talk. He kept telling Boosie and all this and that. So Ivy said
Because of this, Ivy and Boosie began bumping heads as Ivy felt betrayed. As a result, Ivy and Lil Finn began going to the club without Boosie. At the same time, Ivy was becoming a star of his own. He was handsome and could talk that gangster talk. That takes us to March 19th, 2005. It's a Saturday night in Baton Rouge and Ivy is excited to go out to the club and have some fun. On this night, the place to be happens to be a small town across the river called Port Allen, Louisiana. So at 10 p.m., Finn, Ivy, and some TBG friends head across the bridge to Club Vibes. At the club, Finn and Ivy are getting all the girls because they have the popularity and the fancy chains. Well, another crew at the club does not take well to this at all. This would be Uptown Baton Rouge's dope celebrity family, also known as DCF. DCF has been rapping and trying to build their label for years, so jealousy is heavy on this night. In particular, 2 DCF members are there to cause a scene. One would be Marquis Serta, also known as Big Marquis, and the other would be Tremaine Franklin, also known as Lil Pig. DCF Lil Pig actually happens to be first cousins with Lil Finn. He also happens to be former childhood friends with Lil Ivy. But on this night, the jealousy overrides the family connections. Well, inside the club, the DCF members start an argument for zero reason. The story goes that Lil Pig gets into an altercation with Lil Ivy and they have to be removed by club security. But thankfully, the night ended without any injuries and everyone was able to make it home. Regardless, the DCF camp now had a reason to make Finn and Ivy their rivals, and now it was only a matter of time before they see each other again. April 2nd, 2005. It's another Saturday night in Baton Rouge, but really not just any Saturday. Specifically, the night happens to be Lil Ivy's 25th birthday. So to celebrate, Lil Ivy headlines Club Shenanigans in North Baton Rouge. So at 10:30 p.m., Finn, Ivy, and a couple other friends head to the club. This happens to be the first year that Boosie isn't with Ivy on his birthday. Well, little does Ivy know, Boosie feels bad about this and he wants to reconcile the relationship. So at 12 a.m., Boosie heads to Club Shenanigans with gifts for Ivy. At 12:30, he arrives to the club and walks to Ivy's section. Boosie and Ivy begin to talk, and from what we know, the conversation doesn't go well. Coincidentally, during this conversation, the DCF crew happen to walk in the club. While everyone is distracted, the DCF crew began to walk to Ivy and Boosie's side of the club. They began yelling threats and walking up to the section. DCF, Lil Pig, and Big Marquis make their way up to the section and things go down. Specifically, Lil Pig targets Ivy and Big Marquis throws a sucker punch right at Boosie. At this moment, Bleak allegedly grabs Boosie and drags him out of the club. He then smartly convinces him to get in the car and drives away. A couple minutes later, police shut down the club and everyone is escorted. Finn and Ivy hop in their separate cars and begin to drive home to their respective homes. Everyone heads out, Lil Finn and his friends and Lil Ivy and his. Everyone is relieved that the night ended peacefully. Yes, Ivy's birthday was ruined, but at least he made it out. Or at least that's what they thought. Ivy happens to live in a suburban area all the way in eastern Baton Rouge, so he hops on Interstate 12 East headed to his home on Cavalier Drive. At 2:20 a.m., he gets off the freeway at the South Sherwood Forest exit. As he's heading down the street in his tinted car, another car pulls right beside him. The car then rolls down their window and bang! Baton Rouge stopped the next morning when everyone got the news. Ivy was an up-and-coming star and everyone was devastated. On top of this, they were wondering why this even happened. People from South Baton Rouge were looking at Boosie sideways because they knew that he and Ivy were not on the best terms. But those who were at the club that night knew exactly what this was about. It simply had to be DCF. But you may be wondering how DCF followed Ivy's car from the club all the way to the suburban neighborhood. Mind you, this is a pretty far drive and a random place to go. It seems like a far-fetched that they followed them from the club all the way to the house. But then you remember that Lil Ivy and Lil Pig used to be close friends, meaning that there's a chance that DCF already knew where Ivy lived. Regardless, everything around the situation remained quiet for quite some time. But then, 2 months after the incident, a man was pulled over in North Baton Rouge. Police searched the car and were able to find the weapon used against Ivy Smith. However, after proving that he was out of town on April 2nd, the man was let free on the Ivy charges. Everyone was even more confused as this man had nothing to do with Boosie or the DCF camp. No one was claiming to have done this, so the mystery remained. In the meantime, Boosie repped hard for his friend Ivy even though they were on shaky terms. He gave money to Ivy's family and he stepped up as a father for his young son. On top of this, he made sure to keep his name alive through shoutouts and dedications in his music. On a positive note, the loss of Ivy brought Boosie and his friends back together. This ultimately put the rumors that Boosie had done it down the drain. And 2 years later, some hands began to reveal themselves. In 2007, Big Marquis began dissing Boosie out of nowhere. He claimed to have broken Boosie's 2 front teeth that night at the club, as he stated in multiple songs. He even began to call himself Mr. Two-Piece for the 2 punches that connected with Boosie's mouth. At this point, Baton Rouge did not know yet that dissing Boosie was a major mistake. To make matters worse, at the same time, rumors began to circulate that Lil Pig was responsible for Lil Ivy. For these reasons, Boosie was now infuriated at the DCF camp and something needed to be done. Obviously, as a superstar rapper, he wasn't gonna do it himself, so instead, he needed his friends to step up. This right here placed Lil Finn in a major dilemma. Do I ride with my cousin Pig, or do I ride with Boosie and for my friend Ivy? Well, Finn was a cold stepper and he was loyal to Boosie and Ivy no matter what. And this right here may confirm it. On April 19th, 2008, Lil Pig and his mother were found inside his Acura TL right in front of her home. The incident occurred in a somewhat tucked-off suburban area of Baton Rouge. This begged the question of how someone found Lil Pig at this specific location. His Acura was tinted, and the man who did this was sitting across the street waiting for a couple of hours. There was only one plausible answer, as Lil Finn was his cousin and this was his aunt's house. Lil Finn was never found guilty, but the streets of BR took this as a fact. Boosie began shouting out Lil Finn in his music under his other nickname Gangster Nick. In fact, he has a song called Gangster Lil Nick where he depicts the character of his young friend. In the song he says, "We lost Lil Ivy and he turned up his pressure." He also says he wanted everyone to know he did that. And lastly, he calls him his light-skinned stepper with 2 Glocks and a stick. When you live this kind of life, karma comes around in mysterious ways. December 9th, 2008. It's a typical Tuesday afternoon in South Baton Rouge and Lil Finn is outside his house on Tennessee Street. The Hood is outside hanging out when Lil Finn gets into an argument with a friend named Donald Eli. Finn's hot temper gets the best of him and he whips out on his friend. He misses and Donald sprints behind the house. Finn follows him to the back of the house, but this time Donald is ready. Donald was arrested directly after the incident. However, once police got the full story, they realized that it was self-defense. And as you would expect, all of the charges for Donald Eli were dropped. Regardless of the circumstances, the incident devastated Boosie as Finn was one of his closest friends. He was also upset because Finn was the only one proven to put in work after the loss of Ivy. Everyone knew that he was the main enforcer on the Boosie side, so this loss had some serious implications. Boosie was no longer protected like he once was, and things would only get worse a couple of months later. Boosie was pulled over in Baton Rouge and officers found 7 grams of green stuff in his glove box. Now you may scoff at this, but in Louisiana this is a serious charge. Because of this, Boosie was sent to jail facing 2 years in Angola State Prison. So now with Ivy gone, Finn gone, and Boosie locked up, the DCF rivals began to get bold. DCF was headed by a rapper named Nussie, who by this time was already in his 30s. Because of his age, Nussie wasn't really involved in the DCF street activity. He was simply an older guy who was grasping to have a rap career. Well, while Boosie was away, Nussie began trolling tremendously. First, he dropped a mixtape with the same exact cover as Boosie's album, except with his own face on it. The strategy worked for Nussie as his music started selling.
You know, so now I'm getting radio play, I'm in the club, my CD's selling off the shelf, you know what I'm saying?
But the trolling would get even worse. On his next project, he used Ivy's vocals and put them on his own song. He even started halfway claiming that he was the one responsible for the loss of Ivy. This was a man playing with fire, especially because Boosie was coming home soon. Shortly after this, Boosie's charges were reduced and he was sent home on house arrest. Boosie versus Nussie was the new beef in Baton Rouge and everyone was curious what would happen. But for Nussie, he didn't see it as beef, as he would clear the air with a local interview.
You know, but as for the Boosie incident, the so-called beef with me and Lil Boosie, I ain't got no beef with Boosie because I talked to him. I talked to him maybe 4.5, 5 months ago at the airport. I flew in from Mexico. I got a call that he was getting off the airplane. He was on his way to Baton Rouge because I knew somebody on the plane. I said, damn, this is the perfect time I can go catch him while he by himself.
Right.
Where ain't no entourage, just me and you, you know. Now, he wasn't acting like no nothing. You know, he stood up like a man. He talked to me. He told me that he ain't never crossed me. He ain't had nothing against me. He told me to look up to me in the streets. And I told him, well, my feelings were hurt because nigga told me he yanked my sign down, which was petty, but it was big to me because I feel like we know each other and I just talked to you. And for you to do that is like you shitting on my dreams, bro. You know? So he told me he didn't do it. I told him, well, shit, ain't no beef. You know, just like I say, when I say things about people on songs, people gonna blow it up because they think it's gonna be, you know, but just don't know I'm entertaining my listeners. And I talk about anybody, you know. I could be with my boy, when he make me mad, I might jot a little line about his ass. You might see us later on. Right. So make a long story short, people done caught on to it. Ain't nobody really nothing tripping. Personal. No, it ain't nothing personal. You know, like I say, I told him, I said, man, I'd be less than a man to do you something behind some he said, she said, when I can just come approach you. Because we know each other. You know, I know you and you know me.
He even admits it was all a marketing campaign.
I had did it because I had wanted to always think about marketing. You know what I'm saying? I thought it'd be an easy way to catch people's ear, and it worked. It did. You know what I'm saying? I did it. I took Boosie's album cover, took him off, put me on it, and I did it. But once you listen to the album, I had no diss. It wasn't a diss record. It just was something I wanted to just be different, be exclusive, you know? A lot of people took it the wrong way. A lot of people understood what I was doing, and they commended me for it. And the music spoke for itself.
Clearly, Nussie thought that everything was good, as that's what Boosie had told him. However, this wasn't exactly the case. According to court documents, Boosie put $25,000 on Nussie's head. Previously, he would have called Lil Finn to handle it for free, but now it was anyone's ransom. And that introduces us to a young man named Michael Louding, also known as Marlo Mike. Marlo Mike grew up in the uptown section of Baton Rouge and was best friends with Lil Fat. If you're unfamiliar, Lil Fat happens to be the son of Trill CEO Melvin Vernell. This doesn't matter now, but will later be relevant. At this time, Marlo Mike was only 15 years old, but had already built a dangerous reputation. He was raised in extreme poverty, in and out of abandoned homes, and was raised by all kinds of different family members. Because of this, Marlo had no sense of family or structure and was desperate for appreciation and attention. Well, for a couple of years, Marlo was used as an enforcer for Trillian T and Lil Fat, and once he heard about Boosie's ransom, he was eager to cash in. Lil Fat brought Marlo Mike to Boosie's mansion. Marlo was excited to meet his idol, however Boosie wasn't there. Instead, he was able to meet Boosie's young stepper named Michael Judson, also known as Ghost. Ghost grew up one building down in Boosie's projects, but was 5 years younger. So essentially, he was raised under Boosie's wing and eventually became his enforcer. Well, now that Ghost and Marlo were connected, this was a dangerous duo, especially for $25,000. February 9th, 2009. It's a regular Monday afternoon in Baton Rouge, and Nussie is at home chilling with his boys. At 10:40 p.m., Nussie's friends tell him they're hungry and they're going to the gas station to grab some food. Nussie doesn't want to be left at the house, so he decides to tag along with them. Together, the group of 5 get up and walk to the Exxon on Florida Street. Coincidentally, at this same time, Marlo, Mike, and Ghost are spinning around the area looking for Nussie. They know he lives in the general area, but they don't know exactly where to find him. Well, at 10:55, Ghost realizes he's running low on gas, so he pulls into the Exxon gas station. As Ghost is pumping gas, Marlo walks into the store to grab a snack. As he enters the store, he looks up and completely freezes in his tracks. He notices Nussie right there checking out at the counter. Marlo is shocked, so he walks to the back of the store staring at Nussie the entire time. Nussie looks back at Marlo a couple of times, but he doesn't recognize him. He thinks nothing of it and walks back home with his friends. Marlo drops his snacks and instantly walks to Ghost's car and tells him that he just saw Nussie. So the duo instantly hop in the car and begin following Nussie at a distance. At 11:03, Nussie and his friends arrive to his house and walk inside. As they're walking in, Marlo and Ghost bend the corner and they get out of the car. Ghost then crouches down and Marlo Mike gets on his shoulders. This way, Marlo Mike can see into the living room and have a clear view of Nussie. He's able to spot Nussie sitting on the couch, and that's when he makes a wild decision. This was major news in Baton Rouge as Nussie was a local celebrity. Everyone was curious what this was about, and most people assumed that it was Boosie. Well, once Ghost told Boosie who had done it, he was eager to meet him. So this is when Marlo Mike was first introduced to Boosie Boo. Marlo went to Boosie's mansion expecting $25,000, but instead he was only handed $2,800. Personally, I would be pissed, but Marlo Mike didn't really care. He was raised in extreme poverty, so to him it didn't really make a difference. In his mind, he had never had this kind of money before, so everything was okay. More importantly, he was truly stargazed by Boosie and he was willing to do anything to please him. This is ultimately how Marlo Mike became Boosie's new #1 stepper. He was now a part of the family, even taking pictures with Boosie's daughter. Now with Marlo on his team, Boosie felt untouchable once again. And that takes us to April 12th, 2009. Boosie is on house arrest surrounded by family and friends at his home. Everyone is downstairs blasting music, partying, and having an overall great time. And as everyone is distracted, a young guy from Boosie's neighborhood creeps his way upstairs. He makes his way into Boosie's bedroom looking for items to steal. The man finds Boosie's jewelry box and begins stuffing his pockets. As he's quickly doing this, one of Boosie's friends happens to walk in his room. Boosie's homie yells downstairs and tells people to come up. So Boosie walks upstairs, sees what the man is doing, and gets furious. So Boosie and his friends drag the man downstairs and outside of the house. They then give him a good old-fashioned whooping. While this is going on, the neighbors get concerned and call 911. The police come quickly and notice Boosie standing over the man. So instantly, Boosie was booked for battery.
Again, the Sheriff's Department says local rapper Torrence Hatch, better known as Lil Boosie, was arrested today on aggravated second-degree battery charges from a fight they say happened at his house on April the 12th. Sheriff's officials say when Boosie and a few others showed up at the house, there was some sort of a confrontation about the man stealing one of Boosie's necklaces. We're told that's when a fight broke out. Fist and possibly even a vase were used in the fight. One man was taken to the hospital with non-threatening injuries.
Now, one of the rumors goes that the thief was Marcus Thomas, also known as Gangster. The other rumor states that Marcus had snatched Boosie's chain in front of his daughter. Either way, Boosie was pissed, and Marlo Mike now had another mission. April 25th, 2009. It's a Saturday night in Baton Rouge, and Marlo and Ghost are on their mission. Specifically, they're in South Baton Rouge waiting outside of Marcus's house on West McKinley. They wait for 45 minutes until Marcus returns home in his pickup truck. Marlo and Ghost then pull alongside the truck and roll down their windows. Bang. This was a rupture in the South Baton Rouge community. Some felt like it was an overreaction to material possessions, but others understood that Boosie was not the person to steal from in the first place. At this point, Boosie's life is completely filled with drama, and from here it would only get worse. If you remember a man named Big Marquis, he was the one who allegedly knocked out Boosie's teeth in 2005. Well, Marquis was a feared man in Baton Rouge, similar to Marlo Mike. 4 years had passed since the incident, and the drama surrounding Big Marquis had died down. However, when you're dealing with Boosie, there's no timetable for revenge. On July 24th, 2009, Big Marquis was found in his car in the Mall City neighborhood. A man named Damian Williams, also known as TBG Short, was arrested for the incident. Short was known to be close with Boosie and can be seen in the My Brother's Keepers music video. Because of this, many people in Baton Rouge figured that Boosie was responsible. However, the witnesses would go missing before the trial, and TBG Short was released free. At this point, the Boosie side was nearly untouchable. They were running the streets and getting bolder and bolder by the day. Allegedly, of course, but this madness would continue. Now let me introduce you to a new important family in the story. In 2006, Boosie formed a relationship with a woman named Rochelle Wagner. And when I say relationship, I don't mean dating. I simply mean that she birthed his daughter Toriana in 2006. Well, Rochelle had an older stepbrother named Terry Boyd, somewhat of a famed character in the Baton Rouge streets. Terry was a reputed stepper in the Fruittown neighborhood of South Baton Rouge. He had been shot 29 times on 6 different occasions, and he also beat complete 6 separate murder charges. As you can tell, Terry was extremely feared in South Baton Rouge. Well, in 2009, Terry was doing a stint at Angola State Prison with only a few months left on his sentence. During his stint, Terry received word that Boosie was giving his sister Rochelle problems. This prompted Terry to get upset and to begin badmouthing Boosie in Angola prison. One of Boosie's friends in Angola overheard the rant and decided to tell Boosie. He wrote Boosie a letter warning him that Terry said that he's gonna jack him up and slap him up when he gets home. Boosie was pissed. Boosie took this seriously, especially because Terry was coming home very soon. In fact, he was released on September 30th and paroled to his friend's house in East Baton Rouge. Terry knew it wasn't smart to parole to South Baton Rouge, so instead he paroled to his friend's suburban house. But little did he know, Boosie's mansion was just 8 minutes south. October 21st, 2009. It's a regular Wednesday afternoon at Boosie's mansion. Boosie's allegedly in the studio with Ghost and Marlo when they receive a tip about Terry Boyd's location. So Marlo and Ghost instantly hop in Ghost's Buick and drive to the location. They drive around the neighborhood looking for clues of Terry. That's when Marlo spots Terry walking into a house on Vermilion Drive. So Marlo and Ghost tell the driver Adrian Pittman to drive his car across the train tracks. This way the surveillance footage won't be able to track the license plate. Once Adrian crosses the tracks, Marlo and Ghost get out of the car and run across the street. Ghost then crouches down and Marlo gets up on his shoulders. Marlo looks inside the living room until he spots Terry Boyd. Bang! Marlo and Ghost then run back to the car and Adrian drives them back to Boosie's house. When he gets back, he's expecting $25,000, but Boosie hands him just $2,800 once again. Now personally, I'd be upset, but Boosie could do no wrong in Marlo's eyes, to the point where Marlo got a Boosie tattoo on his stomach 2 weeks later. It says, "Yo Boosie, who's next?" referring to who's next on the hit list. This is crazy. Marlo Mike was willing to do anything for Boosie. And this would continue just a couple of months later. On December 18th, 2009, a man named Michael Smith was found on Blanche Court. We don't know much about Michael Smith, but we do know in fact that this was done by Marlo Mike. And we also know that Michael Smith happened to be in the area that Trill ENT represents. At this point, Boosie was allegedly causing major damage in the Baton Rouge streets. People were dropping left and right for all kinds of reasons. Album covers, diss songs, nicknames, threats, and you name it. How could Boosie possibly keep up a rap career with all this baggage in the streets? Big Marquis, Ivy, Finn, Pig, Nussie, Marcus Thomas, and Terry Boyd. Just when you thought things couldn't possibly get messier, more drama would come. By the fall of 2009, Boosie hadn't released an album in over 3 years, so it was extremely important that his next album be great. Boosie knew this, so he spent the entire summer of 2009 on house arrest recording the album. After putting his heart and soul in the project, he sent it off to Trill ENT for mixing. Well, the highly anticipated album was released on September 15th, 2009. While listening to the official album, Boosie was pissed. He noticed 5 different verses added to the album that he never approved of. Particularly, Trill ENT's son named Lil Fat was placed on 5 different songs. At this time, Lil Fat was only 17 years old and was definitely not ready to be on a major album like this. Boosie was pissed as Trill ENT had used him to promote Mel's son. Not only was he mad at Trill, but he was also upset with Fat for not giving him a heads up. So in an interview, Boosie stated that the song Clips and Choppers would have been a hit if Lil Fat was never on it. He even dissed him on new songs as well, saying, "I hope they give your 100 years. Now this contradicts Boosie's stance that he doesn't wish jail on anyone, but I guess we have to give him a pass. Well, Lil Fat would respond with disses as well, claiming that Boosie is a rat for putting Marlo Mike's name in his music. At this point, Boosie's relationship with Trill ENT was completely ruptured. And this right here put a lot of people in a strange position. On the music side, Webby was Trill's first artist and he wasn't gonna dump them over an issue with Boosie. This is how Boosie and Webby's relationship initially split. It wasn't beef, but they just stopped talking. But the rupture with Trill also had some serious street implications. If you can remember, Marlo Mike was initially Lil Fat's friend and the muscle for Trill ENT. So Marlo had a dilemma. Does he ride with Lil Fat or Boosie in the beef? Boosie's his idol and the man with the money, but Lil Fat is his day one friend. Well, 2010 would be a tough year for Boosie, that's all I have to say. On January 1st, 2010, Michael Ghost Judson was found in North Baton Rouge. Apparently, he was outside celebrating New Year's when a man with a mask approached him on North 38th. If you're unfamiliar, North Baton Rouge is mostly abandoned, so there were no cameras to track the incident. Because of this, police had no suspects in the case, but the streets began to talk. Ghost was one of Boosie's original hitters, and he had been rocking with Marlo for about a year now. So did Marlo flip on him for Trillian T, or was this DCF? To this day, no one truly knows about the situation. Regardless, this was a major loss for Boosie, and sadly, another one would come soon. April 1st, 2010. It's an early afternoon in Baton Rouge and Boosie's friend Bleak is sitting in a car hanging out with Charles Noki Matthews. They happen to be in the Bankstown neighborhood of North Baton Rouge, far away from their original hood. They're hanging out on a dead-end road where nobody can find them, simply having peace. Well, somehow two men get their specific location. These would be Marlo Mike and Kendrick Johnson, who happens to be Lil Fat's brother. At 3:15 p.m., Marlo and Kendrick pull up on Montesano Avenue. They pull up alongside the car and they both roll down their window. This was the ultimate loss for Boosie, as Bleak was his best friend from day one. And for Charles Matthews, he was from the neighborhood as well, but they weren't on speaking terms. Finally, the streets were catching up with Boosie as his side was no longer invincible. Well, BRPD had no clues for suspects and neither did the streets. Was it Trill, DCF, or maybe it was another rumor that came out of left field? Rumors circulated that Boosie was upset with Noki for stealing from him and that he ordered Marlo to do this. And this supposes that Marlo had no idea that Bleak was in the car with Noki. However, this rumor was never proven to be true and it seems kind of far-fetched. Either way, after this, Marlo's entire world collapsed in his head. Boosie was done with him and Marlo was scared that he would become the next target. A month after this, Marlo Mike was arrested for a fight in South Baton Rouge. Because he was a juvenile, this was a very small charge that had little to no consequences. The most time he could get was a couple of months and then he'd be right back home. But once he was arrested, Marlo could not think straight. Everything he had done was catching up to his conscience. While detained, Marlo experienced panic attacks and outbursts of anger. Police were stunned by his behavior on such a simple charge, so they brought him in to talk about his feelings, and this is where things get crazy. Marlo begins telling police his entire childhood story, from his broken childhood, his dirt poverty, and meeting Boosie. Marlo told police that he first met Boosie when he collected the bounty on Nussie's head. He explained to police that he didn't do it for money, but instead he did it to be appreciated by his idol. He then told them about every single body he caught for Boosie, every single one with precise detail, how much he was paid, and who he did them with. Police were shocked and had never seen anything like this before. A young man who was facing nothing, implicating himself on some very serious charges. And of course, because this information on Boosie was very important as well. Why Marlo did this? Well, he probably felt bad about everything he had done. Or according to Boosie, it's because he feared that he was his next target. Either way, Boosie was arrested a couple days later. On June 17, 2010, Boosie's mansion was raided and he was charged with 1 billion charges.
District Attorney Hiller Moore says it's quite possible Lil Boosie is connected to a string of murders. Police recently arrested 9 men for the deaths of 6 others. Police say Boosie is part of this web. One other name stands out. 17-year-old Michael Loudon is the only one charged with each murder.
You always have a head guy and you find these little youngsters that you can roll by and give a couple dollars to.
The news completely stunned the country, and especially the whole rap world. Boosie was a superstar rapper, and on top of this, the case was horrible to hear. He instantly became a big villain in the minds of many. This was one of the biggest cases in Louisiana history, and prosecutors were certain that Boosie would never see the light again. However, for some reason, Boosie knew that the case wouldn't stick. This is because it was entirely based on one person's testimony, and if Boosie could get Marlo Mike to not testify in his case, he knew that he would be free. All he needed to do was make sure that Marlo Mike does not testify in his case. At this time, everyone accepted the fate that Boosie would never see the light again, except for him. And what do you know, during Boosie's trial, Marlo Mike took back his statements. He told the court that he lied and that Boosie had never told him to do anything.
He says Mr. Hatch, Torrence Hatch, did not pay him to do so. In fact,
this was a major blow to the case, as prosecutors could no longer use his original testimony. Now, all they had was lyrics and rumors, which did not stand well with the jury. So on May 11th, 2012, Boosie was acquitted on all charges of the case.
The district courthouse in Baton Rouge, where the jury has returned a not guilty verdict in the murder trial of Torrence Hatch, Little Boosie. A jury of 9 women and 3 men took about an hour to come to this decision, not guilty for Boosie.
However, he was sentenced to 8 years for a separate charge for possession. So Boosie was not free yet, but he knew that he was coming home in the near future.
Remember, he is already serving time right now in Angola on drug charges, an 8-year sentence there. But you're looking at pictures outside District Court in downtown Baton Rouge. There was a huge crowd inside, outside the courtroom.
During this time, unfortunate news would hit the streets of Baton Rouge. Just 10 days before Boosie's trial, Lil Phat was found in Sandy Springs, Georgia. At first, everyone thought that Boosie had called this hit from jail, but that wasn't the case. Instead, it was a completely unrelated situation that could honestly get its own video. Even though Boosie had nothing to do with this, he still doesn't have good words for Lil Phat, and this prompted Phat's brother Kendrick Johnson to troll him on Instagram. In the meantime, Boosie was sitting down waiting for his release. He only ended up serving 2 years and was released in 2014. Many believe that he had just gotten away with some very horrific crimes. Either way, this was his final wake-up call to get out of Baton Rouge. However, once he was released, he pretty much had zero money to his name. Because of this, he grinded like never before, recording hundreds of songs and doing shows nearly every day. Once he saved enough money, he purchased a home in Fayetteville, Georgia, a suburb 40 minutes south of Atlanta. Boosie had a lot of mouths to feed, and he knew that his rap career could only last so long. So in 2015, Boosie partnered with his brother TQ to create Badass ENT. This would be a label focused on finding young artists and developing their careers. Essentially, Boosie was the financer and TQ was the brains behind the operation. So right off the bat, TQ went out looking for artists to sign. Long story short, in 2016, he discovered a singer in Mississippi by the name of Young Blue. So he brought him to Boosie and they ended up signing a deal. While this was kind of a rocky road, as TQ explains that Boosie was being stingy with his money and would not invest in Blue's career. He says that literally all he did was let him rock his chains and get him a Vlad interview.
Boosie did not finance the records. You have to finance the records. Boosie did not give Blue an advance. You didn't reimburse him for studio time. You didn't pay producers. You didn't pay for no studio time. You didn't fly him out. The only thing that Boosie has said that he did for Blue is holler at Vlad to get him on Vlad. Let him wear a chain.
At this point, TQ and Blue are frustrated with Boosie for not investing. So TQ began looking for label partners who are willing to put up money. Meaning that yes, their percentage will now be smaller, but it will be a part of a way bigger pot. So at the end of the day, partnering with a major label was a very smart move. TQ goes ahead and makes Blue's deal non-exclusive, allowing Columbia Records to come in and invest $150,000. Now according to Boosie, TQ did this all behind his back. He also claims that his brother stole the money from Columbia Records.
Say cheese. Y'all need to ask this thief these questions. Why you and Blue couldn't call Boosie and tell him about the deal? Why did it have to be behind his back? Why did you have to forge his signature? If he knew nothing about the deal, why did you put his signature on the paper? Why are you always being accused of stealing from your brother?
He also accuses him of forging his signature while he was in the hospital sick. On the contrary, his brother says that this is not what happened. TQ reveals that Boosie actually co-signed the deal and there was never any money taken from Columbia Records.
We agreed to restructure Blue's deal to make it non-exclusive. Me, Boosie, and Blue sat down.
Who advised you to sign that contract? Because Boosie was in the hospital sick or something, right?
No.
Where was he at?
We don't know where Boosie got that timeline from.
However, he does admit to forging his signature.
You have to understand our business relationship. It's hey Boosie, can you get on the phone? You need to be on this conference call. We need to watch the budget.
You handle it.
You have to be on top of this shit. Sitting down like this, man, Boosie, hey look, he can get out of his contract because we didn't do X, Y, and Z.
I get that.
Okay? Instead of us not getting anything, let's let somebody else put the money up and then we come back and just collect. This is how we've always done business. I've signed every show that you've ever seen Boosie at that's posted on a flyer. Boosie did not sign the actual contract to that show. Every deal, our business relationship is Boosie, here are the numbers. You cool with this? Here are the terms. All right, bam. And once, unless they're in person, I'm signing that digitally.
TQ just admitted to a federal crime, but that's not here nor there. Aside from the Young Blue drama, things would get even worse. Not too long after this, Boosie would find $300,000 missing from his account, and for whatever reason, his brother TQ was arrested for taking the money.
Somebody hit Boosie's account for over $300,000.
At one time?
Over a course of 30 days. Boosie calls me one day saying, man, they fucking hit my account, whatever, bam, bam, bam. I pull up. I'm just manager shit. All right, man, what's going on? All right, pull up to the bank, whatever. So I'm like, we sit down with the bank. I'm like, man, they gonna figure it out, whatever. I go sit with fucking NOPD for over 2 hours to get a police report. I'm just doing manager shit, right?
Yeah.
And Boosie's like going off on the internet. Capital One owed me my money, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, you know, whatever. Again, me and Boosie thinking that, oh, now they found who it, that you about to get your money back, hopefully,
yeah.
Bam. We sit down at a table like this, there's two officers on the other side. They say, all right, let's cut to the chase, basically. They say, Boosie, we believe that you are doubling down on your money. And Taquari, we believe that you are helping them do it. I sent my arrest report to Boosie. Hit me back, they might be about to arrest you. Because
they're saying both of y'all.
They're saying both of us, and they just arrested me. They dropped the charges.
Yeah. The police found no evidence that TQ did this, but Boosie seems to believe he did.
Do you think he really believes that you stole the money, or you think he's just saying that?
You know your brother.
Boosie was pissed, but not only did he take it to social media, he also brought it to his brother in person.
Poydras, the street that runs in front of the Superdome, is a 3-lane street. I'm crossing at the light. I see a SUV in the middle lane and 3-4 hop out the thing. I see it. I'm already walking across traffic. My car is parked right there. I see Boosie and some other random from high school coming toward me, like hopping out of there's ongoing traffic. And Boosie has a bat. Man, they didn't come all the way to the car. They were in the middle of traffic.
Boosie know what's up.
Wait, they arrested you before or after that incident?
Before. If he had something to do with it, I don't think he would have been that mad. So I do not believe he had anything to do with it for that reason.
Because he would have known it was his play.
Right, and he wouldn't have been that mad.
That mad.
Boosie, why you need a bat for your brother?
Why you need a bat for your brother, Boosie?
That ain't gangsta!
After all this, Boosie allowed his brother back into the business less than 2 years later. But in the meantime, major news would come to the Baton Rouge streets. If you remember the name Donald Eli, he was the one who acted in self-defense against Finn. Well, on June 29th, 2017, he was found outside of Thomas Grocery in South Baton Rouge. Boosie would respond in a song by saying, "I heard a just got chop out fin." Clearly, Boosie was not the reformed family man who only cared about business. He is who he is at the end of the day, a gangster. Well, now we go back to Boosie and TQ. Somehow, 2 years after their problems, they were back cool like nothing had happened. By this time, Young Blue's career had taken off with Drake features and millions of views. For whatever reason, this made Boosie pissed even though he made money from it. Most of these songs were done under Empire, and that's why Boosie now hates Ghazi. He claims that Ghazi was doing Blue albums without talking to him first.
About sitting down about this album, Ghazi, bro, but you ignored me. Now you and all parties involved will be receiving paperwork, if not first thing Monday, Tuesday. It's just business. Now you text right back. What up, bro? I never saw the text. So you knew you was gonna have to pay me that bag. And you could penny pinch them. You could penny pinch them, you knew that. You knew you was gonna have to pay me that bag.
Well, because of this, Boosie is now suing Empire, Young Blue, and his brother TQ. In response, Young Blue would say that Boosie is not a good CEO like Yo Gotti. And at this point, we know that calling Boosie less than another man will never sit right with him.
You throwing all these other CEOs in it. Why they ain't saying? You trying to throw a cross with me and Gotti, my people. Why Gotti ain't saying? Cause I'm the only one believed in you. You went to QCP, he ain't want you. You went to him first. He didn't want you. I believed in you. I gave you a chance. Nobody wanted you because they say you sounded just like Future. When I posted you, everybody say he sound like Future. He ain't gonna blow up. I went to bat for you. Do the right thing, bro. Just pay me, bro.
Well, no one really knows if Blue owes him money or not, but that's not where things are interesting. Instead, it's the fact that he's suing his own brother that caused a major tear in his family. Boosie would have some very cold-blooded, harsh words for his brother.
He'll never be squashed. That ain't my brother. His kids ain't my nieces and nephews. That die right now. I'ma laugh. He ain't no real brother. Now he just trying to do an interview so he can pay his rent. Who gonna forward somebody's name, bro? Talking about drop the lawsuit or he cause he might go to jail. I'm not dropping no lawsuit. I wouldn't give a damn. You don't never come home. I'm not dropping no lawsuit. Them $5 million, that's for my kid. You think I'm dropping a lawsuit? You forged my signature while I wasn't there, and Blue sitting right on side you while you do it. Then he admitted it. He admitted it. He admitted it.
Boosie is very confident that it will be an easy lawsuit. His mother knows this, so she told him to drop the lawsuit against his brother. Boosie did not appreciate this and stopped talking to his mother.
I done lost a relationship with my mama. My mama, she always took his side, bro. My mama always took his side, bro. That's her first child. She always took his side, bro. I've been suing him for 2 years now. It's a 2 year, it's been going on for 2 years. She took his side, bro. She like, I know he was wrong for signing your name and taking money out your kid's mouth, but I don't want to see my baby go to jail. Can you drop the lawsuit? Never once said nothing about her grandchildren. Drop what lawsuit? Drop what lawsuit? My dad ain't like him. My daddy say he was... My dad ain't never like him. My daddy knew he was a snake. My dad ain't never like him. My dad ain't never like him. He always said he was a coward. He was a sissy. He was a snake. My dad ain't never like him. That's my mama's first child, though. He went to different schools. I went to the public schools, and he went to different schools. She been taking up for him his whole life. He trying to keep his wife. She too expensive for him.
This is messy business, especially for a 40-year-old man. When Boosie's mad, all logic goes out of the window and is straight attack mode. But to make matters worse, things would get even crazier in his family. Well, if you remember, Boosie has a daughter named Toriana, whose mother is the younger sister of Terry Boyd. This is the daughter that Boosie has always had problems with, and it only gets worse. So Boosie has custody of all of his children for the entire summer. Well, a month and a half in, his daughter Toriana decided to drive from Atlanta all the way back home to Baton Rouge. As a loving parent, this pissed off Boosie to the furthest extent, especially because she drove off in the brand new Mercedes that he purchased for her 16th birthday. So Boosie instantly sent a repo man to her mother's house and had the car brought back to Atlanta, Georgia. This prompted Toriana to go off on a rant against her dad.
You still hurt about that? You still hurt? That's crazy. This man gave me a big old stack of money. 5 big. He gave me a big old stack of money, y'all. Guess what? As soon as everybody left, guess what? He got that back, put that in a bank account. I couldn't even use it. Come on now. I've been getting stuff took from him. So y'all instead of saying, you gonna miss out, you gonna miss out. If that mean I've been missing out. Come on now. The whole point was about him not being a father. But y'all wanna pick out the list of. Anytime I felt happiness from this man, it was temporary. Very temporary. He bumped it down real quick. Who was there for me when you was locked up in Angola? What? Could never be me. Could never be me. And I don't hate him, but I don't love him either. Straight like that. I ain't got a fake. I ain't got a pump fake or nothing. He was never there. Like I don't know how to explain that. Like he was never there for me mentally. So I'm not missing out on nothing. So I'm not like it don't bother me. Like
I can't imagine what was going through Boosie's head, but here was his response.
A child who disrespect her father, like not a daddy, her father. She got to deal with God for that. I done washed my hands. I done washed my hands with him. Can't get nothing from me no more. I'm glad I got 7 more. I ain't tripping. I know it's no truth in none of that. I'm a deadbeat. Shit. I wasn't a deadbeat on Father's Day. On my day. I was trying to raise that girl, right? I had that girl going to private schools in Alpharetta. Straight A's. That's one thing I am. I'm a father. I don't play about my daughters. I raised them to be precious gold. Jay-Z would never. Jay-Z ain't got my baby mom. Beyonce would never.
Now, do you guys think that his baby mother hates him because of what he allegedly did to Terry Boyd? Well, this is what Boosie seems to think, but he says that Terry Boyd was no saint.
Let's keep it real, man. Don't act like he was a good Samaritan. So don't act like I was on trial for a good Samaritan. He beat 5 bodies. I ain't snitching on nobody. He dead. He playing spades with Tupac right now. Everybody in Baton Rouge know I'm speaking facts. If anybody from Baton Rouge on here, they gonna say he ain't lying. If anybody from Baton Rouge on this line, they gonna say he ain't lying.
In my opinion, the fact that Boosie gets into it with everyone in his life means that he may be the problem. Now, I'm not saying that he hasn't been crossed or that he doesn't have his reasons, but Boosie is always the common denominator. I challenge you to find one person in his life that he hasn't fallen out with. Well, just when you thought that his life couldn't get messier, it just would. On June 15th, 2023, Boosie was arrested in San Diego. He was recording a video with some local rappers when police raided the scene. They didn't actually find anything on Boosie, but they used an Instagram post to charge him with holding a blicky. Now, if you're unfamiliar, felon in possession is a very serious charge, especially in California. Also, why would Boosie need that in San Diego? San Diego? Why? Is he scared of some surfers or vegans? Anyways, because the case was weak, the judge decided to drop it a week later. Boosie was excited, but as soon as he left the courthouse, the federal police were there to arrest him. So now he's being tried in federal court for felon in possession. This is very serious and could potentially take him off the streets for another 10 years. So now with all the craziness in his life, he's now facing this. There truly needs to be a movie done on the life of Boosie. I promise you that this video didn't even scratch the surface. I think what I learned is that Boosie sees himself as the ultimate boss and gangster, and anything that gets in his way, he's willing to cross out. It's obvious that he doesn't care about anyone's feelings, even the ones closest to him. From day one till now, there seems to be multiple reoccurring themes in the life of Boosie, but you guys can tell me what they are. Now, after hearing all this, what do you guys think? Is Boosie truly a good man who gets crossed by everyone around him, or is he an evil person who brings it all upon himself? Let me know what you think in the comments. And that's gonna do it for this episode of Swamp Stories. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know if you enjoy these longer videos or if you want to see something else. Oh yeah, and tell me what else I can improve on. Peace!